I'm Marcus Hale, 39, co-owner of Hale's Kitchen, the diner my parents built on meatloaf, coffee, and stubbornness. A week ago, a judge ended my marriage with a stamp and a sigh. Samantha, my ex, had been meeting clients with our meat supplier, Jimmy Kowalski. Funny how the woman who promised forever found time for Jimmy twice a week, right after he delivered dairy. So I did what newly divorced men do in small towns. I sat at Murphy's Tavern, breathing in old beer and neon hum, trying to drink the grainy taste of betrayal off my tongue. On sip 4, the door blew open and in walked a woman who didn't belong in Murphy's or anywhere with sticky floors. Navy suit, clean lines, calm power. The kind of put together that makes a room stop pretending it isn't staring. She scanned the bar, found me, and smiled like she'd solved a long puzzle. "Marcus Hale," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You might not recognize me. High school did me no favors." The voice tugged at a memory. The eyes sealed it. Green, luminous, steady. "Clara," I said, throat suddenly dry. "Clara Wynn." Back then, she'd been the quiet girl in thrift store. Blouses who ate alone and looked like a strong wind might carry her off. I worked my parents' diner after school and learned to read hunger. The real kind. I started bringing extra sandwiches. I'd sit with her, slide half across the table, and talk about everything dumb and ordinary. She'd eat like the food might vanish and thank me like I'd done more than share lunch. Now she ordered a French wine I couldn't pronounce and told me how life had swerved. An office job, a client who noticed the careful lunches she packed, a nudge into a community college cooking class. The class became an obsession. How to build nutritious meals from whatever a thin wallet could buy. A blog, Nourish for Less, caught fire. A book deal, a YouTube channel with millions of subscribers, a second book, a cooking show in the works. She'd turned the problem that once hollowed her out into a mission and an empire. "And I've been following you," she said, softer now. "Every trip home I drove past Hale's Kitchen. I saw what you built. I also heard about the chains, the money trouble, the divorce." I braced for pity. What I got was a contract. "I want a standing lunch order from Hale's Kitchen," she said, tapping the papers. 300 meals a week, distributed to shelters, after-school programs, community centers. 10 years. Or longer if you'll have me. Call it repayment. I laughed because crying would have ruined the moment. "Clara, this is a fortune." "It's a start," she said. "You fed me when I was invisible. Let me feed people now, through you." 3 days later, I signed in a law office that smelled like leather and victory. Then Clara told the world. In a video watched by more people than live in our county, she said, "Food is love, and love doesn't have to be expensive." Let me introduce you to the diner that taught me that. Lines formed before noon. Phones rang off their hooks. We hired servers, then cooks, then dishwashers. Together we built the Clara Specials. 5 meals built on her principles and my grandmother's stubborn recipes. A grilled turkey and Swiss with avocado and baked sweet potato fries. A quinoa roasted veg bowl with tahini we whisked by hand. A comfort meatloaf with hidden vegetables. A big salad named Growing Strong. A rotating dessert that didn't need a lecture or an insulin shot. Each plate carried a card that explained the nutrition and the cost to make it at home. People didn't just eat, they talked. Parents explained protein to kids. College students asked about pantry swaps. Strangers shared tables, then stories. Clara worked beside me most weeks. Sleeves up, hair back, precise, funny. She'd taste a biscuit and say, "Whole wheat for fiber, honey for warmth," and somehow it was better and still my grandmother's. We'd close at 10 and keep cooking until midnight, testing ideas and trading histories. She told me about rejection letters and rented rooms and the first time a crowd lined up for a signing with her name on the window. I told her about walking payroll tightropes and the day I found texts that broke my marriage clean in two. "You feed everyone but yourself," she said once, scraping bowls clean. "That's how a man forgets who he is." 6 months into the frenzy, On a Thursday, after hosting a busload of food bloggers, we were alone in the kitchen. She sat on the counter, eating leftover apple crisp from the pan like it was a reward she'd earned. The cleaning crew comes at dawn, but Clara was scrubbing the steel prep table like the health inspector was hiding under it. "Old habit," she said with a grin. "A clean kitchen is the difference between dinner and disaster." She hesitated, eyes on the cinnamon crumbs. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "I had a crush on you in high school," she blurted, cheeks pink. "The write your name in my notebook kind. You were kind when kindness felt like oxygen." I laughed, stunned. "Clara, I had a crush on you. You were the most real person in that whole building." We stared at each other, 21 years collapsing into the space between us. "Marcus," she said, voice small and daring at once, "are we going to keep talking about high school, or are you going to kiss me?" So, I kissed her. She tasted like apples and relief. Something inside me clicked into place that hadn't fit right in a long time. She started spending more time at my place than at her sleek city apartment. A month later, there was a toothbrush in my bathroom. 6 months later, we chose rings. We married in the restaurant under strings of lights and the clatter of a kitchen that never quite sleeps. She wore a simple white dress. I wore my best suit, and my parents cried into paper napkins. Business kept booming, but that wasn't the miracle. The miracle was what the place became. Hale's Kitchen turned into a community table with walls, birthdays and wakes, report cards and reconciliations. We served the standing order for shelters at dawn, the lunch crowd at noon, and families at night who now knew what tahini was and why Clara insisted on rinsing quinoa twice. Every week, she'd slip out to film or to meet book people, then come home and stand in the doorway like the room was refilling her. We'd close the place and dance in the dark to the hum of refrigerators. Sometimes we just sat with ledgers and tea, the quiet a kind of shelter neither of us had when we were kids. I still think about the cafeteria table by the windows where it began. A turkey and Swiss cut in half. A girl who tried to disappear. A boy who didn't let her. 21 years is a long simmer, but some dishes need time. The sandwiches didn't cost much. Bread, meat, cheese, a few minutes, but they taught me what my parents tried to teach with meatloaf and coffee. Feeding people is the oldest love language. Now I watch Clara move through our dining room, sleeves, rolled, laughing with a kid who wants to be a chef, hugging a woman who hasn't eaten at a table in months. She kept her promise to pay me back, but the math is lopsided in my favor. She didn't just save the diner. She handed me back purpose, partnership, and a life that tastes like the thing I was always trying to cook. Sometimes the smallest generosity is a key you don't know you're handing over. Years later, a door opens. On the other side stands a woman in a navy suit smiling like she's finally found what she was looking for. "Marcus Hale," she says, "and this time, I'm ready."